Kia ora, welcome to Shared Lunch, brought to you by Sharesies. I'm Helen Mattison. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're talking all things payments. Do you use Google Pay, Apple Pay, or the Sharesies new spend card? In a moment, I'll be talking to Country Manager for Mastercard, Ruth Riviere.
The plastic from cards is a small proportion of overall plastic consumption globally, but we feel like we need to play our part in that.
And Sharesies Personal General Manager, Scott Nixon.
A lot of people don't kind of think about their income and what they're doing day to day as part of their wealth.
Before we get started, here's some important information.
Investing involves risk. You might lose the money you start with. We recommend talking to a licensed financial advisor. We also recommend reading product disclosure documents before deciding to invest. Everything you're about to see and hear is current at the time of recording.
So welcome Ruth, welcome Scott. Great to have you here at Mastercard. Let's start with you, Scott, and why has Sharesies decided to launch a debit card?
So we've been thinking for actually quite a long time that if we really want to deliver on that heart of wealth vision, we really do need to be doing something in that kind of everyday spending, day-to-day money management kind of space. So we feel like this is the sort of next evolution for Sharesies, being that kind of integrated experience.
It does seem a little bit counterintuitive to some though to think that spending is part of building your wealth though.
A lot of people don't kind of think about their income and what they're doing day to day as part of their wealth. We do, and it is a really important part of those kind of financial steps that you are taking to grow your wealth in the long run. Good money management, kind of financial management, good habits are all part of your wealth picture overall.
So you partnered with Mastercard to bring spend to investors and anyone else really. What does the contract actually entail?
Yeah, so I guess at a functional level, what it means is that we issue a Sharesies branded MasterCard, which we love because it gives us immediate access to a global network. So you can use your card in New Zealand and all over the world where MasterCard is accepted straight off the bat, which is obviously very attractive for us.
Likewise, Bruce, what was it that attracted you to Sharesies?
We'd started to see a few examples globally of people who are thinking about wealth and spending at the same time, but really nascent. And I think when we thought about the idea and we thought about New Zealand as a market, Sharesies was such an obvious partner, someone who is seen as super innovative, who is not just about an investment platform, but is now doing so many other things, and a brand that people already deeply trust with their money. And so that felt like a really natural fit with some of what we were seeing globally and how you could make it a really brilliant example here in New Zealand. And also I just always really wanted a pink card. So that was, part of the conversation too.
That's a nice segue, Ruth, into the global payments sector, if you like. I mean, technology is really changing the way we pay for things. What would you say is probably the biggest change in the last 5 years?
Yeah, so the last 5 years has been a story of mass digitization and particularly the adoption of mobile wallets. So since I think 23 to 2027, we're expecting nearly to double the volume going through those wallets. And that's in terms of cardholder spending. But equally, you're seeing the adoption of mobile on the acceptance side too. So you don't need, that separate big terminal anymore. Actually, you can accept payments on your mobile phone. So that digitization and the pace of digitization, 5 years isn't that long in payments terms, but we've just seen such a rapid adoption of that, and that will continue.
So does that mean that people are using plastic cards a little less, and that the likes of Apple Pay, Google Pay, the digitisation that you kind of talked about is way more prevalent? And do we have any figures on that adoption?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about payments is you see technologies coexisting. So not in New Zealand, but in the US, they still love a check. And we don't have that here, but we do still have cash, we do still have magstripe, and we certainly see physical cards and digital wallets coexisting for really, a good period of time going forward. In New Zealand, we're at sort of 20 to 30% now in a digital wallet. Someone like Sharesies and more innovative players are seeing a slightly higher proportion of that versus mass. That's quite a lot lower than Australia, which is about 50% now through a digital wallet. And some parts of Europe, again, higher. So New Zealand, probably we're still going to see that pick up more, and particularly as some of these new propositions come to market, we expect those to be a very digitally engaged customer.
So New Zealand, often we're thought about as that backwater, but also for fintechs, we can be a place to experiment because it's a small audience. Are we quite behind when it comes to payments?
So New Zealand was at the forefront of payments, and obviously FPOS and that just made New Zealand so digital so quickly compared to other places. But what's interesting now is that magstripe technology, FPOS technology, was from the 60s, and it hasn't really changed since. And most markets see a lot less of that than we do here. And I think that's part of why we see that slightly lower adoption on the digital side. But you're absolutely right. And I think we're at the cusp of some pretty exciting moves in retail banking to see some great challenges come in. We've got a pretty consolidated retail banking environment versus other markets.
That leads me to a question about if you do want to use your plastic card every now and again, is it plastic? Is there any cards that are environmentally friendly?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the plastic from cards is a small proportion of overall plastic consumption globally, but we feel like we need to play our part in that. So by 2028, there will be no more first-time use plastics in the network, and the Sharesies card is a recycled plastic card. So we absolutely see the need to make sure that recycled plastic comes in. And then obviously the digital only cards, I think for Sharesies you need to request that you want a physical card. So if you know that you're only going to use it really digitally, then great, you can be environmental and not have the plastic.
The other thing that comes to mind with cards and digital wallets and the like is the loyalty and incentives that often go with the offerings that you might have signed up for. How has that evolved, in that 5 years or in recent times, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of conversation about that, and what's clear is we're moving away from that toaster loyalty, of saving up for however many years and then having a look through the catalogue and getting your toaster. What we're seeing now is that consumers are expecting brands to have a much better understanding about what they care about, what they're passionate about, and rewarding them in that way. And so we're seeing a move towards experiences, a move towards access, a move towards better alignment between what the brand has as part of their core proposition and what the consumer wants. We're also seeing that skew towards corporate social responsibility, towards sustainability. And so we are definitely seeing that start to change, which, is exciting. I look at me and, for my sins, very, very much a fan of like the Mecca thing. And that's not points. That's not 5% cashback. That's all about access and experiences.
Scott, spend does have a fairly different, if you like, incentive proposition. Let's unpack that.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited to launch Investback as part of Sharesies Spend. So a little bit like people might be familiar with like cashback, as Ruth just mentioned, but this is Investback. So this is earning investments as you spend, which I talked earlier about that that link between your day-to-day money management, spending habits, and growing your long-term wealth, we thought what better way than show a really tangible link between those two things, which is as you're tapping your shiny new pink card, using it online wherever, you're earning investments back, which is helping you grow wealth in the long run. It's obviously something unique in New Zealand. There's sort of probably a handful of examples of this around the world that we've been able to find. Yeah.
So Investback, how does it actually work though? Does it mean that the more I spend, the more I get to invest?
Yeah, so if you spend $100 at a store, then we might put $1 into an investing pool, and then that will be invested off on your behalf.
And you would choose where you want to invest it, I'm presuming?
Initially, I think we're going to make a default choice, but something we think will be with quite broad appeal. And then as it evolves, I think we will look to offer choice. We already have things like auto invest and people putting investing on repeat and being able to select what they want. So I think that's probably where you'd see it going over time.
Yeah, because with this and like anything Sharesies does, we usually often have a waitlist, a beta sometimes. There's a lot of back and forth with customers, isn't there? Just on that, I mean, so far, what sort of reaction have you had to spend, given it's on a wait list for a little while now?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that customers have asked about proactively over the year. When are you guys going to do a card? Yeah. We have a lot of, huge fans of the brand who just want to be doing more with us. So it's been great to be able to kind of satisfy that need. Yep, we started up a wait list back end of last year. There's definitely some interest there. To your point though, one of the things I love about working at Sharesies is we do experiment a lot with our customers, and we try and get things as quickly as we can into their hands, because they're obviously the best judge of whether this is a good product or not. We're speaking to them quite frequently about what they'd like to see next and how it's working and any bugs we need to fix and etc. So we will have a period where we're ironing out a few things, but like I say, it's much better for us to do that with our customers, not sort of hide it away and then do a big ta-da and then figure out a bunch of stuff after that. So yeah.
Just to lower the tone a little bit, Ruth, security is something that is part of life, and particularly with finances. And unfortunately, hacking is more prevalent than it probably has ever been. Do you know what the stats are around fraud with cards in Australasia, for example?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Fraud is such an arms race, and whatever we're spending, the bad guys are spending as much, if not more, to try and undermine it. So it's a huge area of focus for us, both as Mastercard and where we're investing internally as well as in acquisitions, but also with our partners to make sure we are doing everything we can to protect cardholders and retailers against that fraud. About 90% of fraud comes in the online space, and so that's really a big focus for us, and why we're implementing things and really focused on things like tokenization. So that means that when you use your card online, we don't actually put the card number on the website with the retailer. We put a representation or a token in there. So it means if then that retailer is hacked and fraudsters get hold of that card number, it can't be used again somewhere else. So that's one thing that we think will help to address that. The other is around biometric authentication. So most people are pretty comfortable now with Face ID or thumbprint if you're still on that. And so making sure more and more payments are authenticated with biometrics, again, just makes it much harder to hack and for that fraud to happen. And then I think we'll talk a little bit about some of the additional innovation that Sharesies has put around this card, which makes it even more secure and safe for customers to use.
Do you think that consumers particularly need more education about how to keep safe online, given that's probably where the lion's share of the hacking does happen?
I think so, but it's so sophisticated nowadays, and the breaches don't always happen with the cardholder, they also happen with the retailer. They happen at all the stages, and so just telling people that they need to be careful is not the full story. So that's why we're really focused on what can you embed from a technology perspective to make sure that that security is inherent in every transaction. Obviously, people should be aware about, not giving other people their card details, making sure that they, trust the retailer that they're transacting with. But we think if we can enable it at a technology level, that's going to be a better outcome.
Because you wouldn't always know. I mean,
Exactly.
we've all got friends or ourselves who have been hacked through various ways.
Totally.
And had no idea at the time, did we? Yeah, okay. This card spend doesn't have a number on it. So how does a numberless card work in practice?
You're absolutely right. There's no card number. So you can use it contactless when you're shopping. But if you wanted to enter a card detail online, you'd need to go to your Sharesies app. You'd need to use Face ID to get into your phone, so you've got that layer of biometric protection. And then just as Sharesies customers are already so used to going into the app as part of their overall Sharesies experience, you'd go in there and you'd be able to get your card number in the app. So that again is another layer of protection that we're building into the proposition. AMP Bank launched it in Australia earlier this year, and they say they've all but eradicated the card fraud on that, because it just makes it so much harder for someone to get hold of your details and to use them without your consent. So we think this is an awesome part of the proposition, and we would hope to see more of that coming to market, and just consumers getting more comfortable that for card details you go back to the app.
How prevalent is that, though? Is this something that's just being adopted slowly, or the numberless card?
Yeah, so Sharesies will be, amongst a handful of the first globally to be rolling this out, but we expect it to become the norm.
Yeah.
And it helps with that, as you said before, we'll have this coexistence of physical and digital, but you can make physical more secure with digital, kind of bringing the two together. Yeah.
So Ruth, just to kind of finish up, what excites you about payments in the future? What's coming up? So,
I'm a payments geek, but I do think payments is really exciting, and it just continues to evolve, and things you weren't even thinking about 6 or 12 months ago, suddenly you're like, gosh, this is coming. For me, one of the things I think is going to be transformative, and you wouldn't be able to host a podcast without someone saying AI at some point, but I do think that AI, as it is transforming, every other part of our lives, will transform the way we pay as well, and it will start to transform it really quickly. You think about how quickly you've moved your search, into these agents, and so we're going to see agents making payments really soon. So it's already live in the US. I would not be surprised if it's not here in the next 6 to 12 months. And so you'll set off your agent, you'll say, I'd like to buy, when you see this at this price in this size with these shipping or whatever it is, or I'm looking for a holiday end to end. So it will be fantastic for consumers to have that capability. But what then becomes interesting is, well, how do you know as a bank or as a retailer that someone has authorized that agent to go and do that thing? And so that's where, we come back to some of the technologies we've already talked about around biometric authentication, around the tokenization, and those become foundational for a really effective agentic payments ecosystem. So it won't all be brand new. These building blocks that we're putting in place now will be so important, so that that agent is doing the work that it's supposed to do. But I think, if we're back talking in a year or so, we'd expect to see the Sharesies card being used as part of some of those experiences across New Zealand.
And Scott, for you, are there anything else you can tell us about where the payments card spend will go in the future? in terms of the ecosystem we have at Sharesies?
Yeah, I mean, there's as I said, there's lots of ideas we've got about where it could go, and we're certainly keen to hear from our customers on that. The other thing we haven't probably touched on much today is open banking, and probably has been a bit of a slow burn in New Zealand for a number of years, but we're really starting to see that accelerate in recent months, and we think that opens up a whole bunch of other payment related opportunities for us at Sharesies, make it much easier to get money in and out of the platform, to be using that money, a more holistic view of your overall financial picture. So with some of these building blocks coming, AI, open banking, and then the capability that we're putting down with Sharesies Spend, we think we can create some really neat experiences. Like I say, our almost singular focus though is how do they help people grow their wealth in the long term. So that's what we want to keep anchoring ourselves back to.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. You can watch Shared Lunch on YouTube or follow us on your favourite podcast app. Leave us a rating and tell us what you'd like to hear next. Right now, we're going to go test the Sharesies Spend card with Ruth and Scott. So here we are at Cafe Mensa at the Viaduct in downtown Auckland. What do we do now, Scott?
Well, I've got my card, so I think we should probably buy something.
Oh no, allow me.